Hi, this is Greg. Look for my book, The Agile Brand, on Amazon or on my website at theagile.world. Welcome back to the Agile World podcast. This is Greg Kihlstrom. In the next few episodes, I'm going to talk about how to create an Agile brand. In my book, also called The Agile Brand, I go through 4 different ways that branders and marketers should really go about transitioning to be more agile. The first thing is understanding that change is the only constant. The second thing is identifying when evolutionary versus revolutionary approaches are needed. Third thing is to make adaptivity and collaboration part of your culture. And finally, staying true to your values no matter what. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the first thing, understanding that change is the only constant. As early as 500 BC, Heraclitus said, "The only thing constant is change." It's kind of funny when people, keep talking about how, everything is moving so quickly and there's so much change happening. People have been saying this for millennia, basically. I think the thing that continues to change is really the rate of that change and the rate of progress and stuff. But change has always been around. And so organizations that understand this and embrace this are braced for the future. There's a few different concepts that I'm going to talk about today, and the first one is the idea of inflection point. And so if you're not familiar with that term, inflection point is a mathematical term. It's essentially the point in a curve in which the direction of that curve changes. And so you're going along, perhaps you're going up, things are getting better, things are increasing, perhaps things are decreasing, but the inflection point is where all of a sudden things take off, for instance. So, you're having some slow growth, things are moving, and then all of a sudden something happens. And there could be a million different reasons why this happens, but a lot of people years ago referred to this as something going viral, for instance, the whole social media, viral media craze. When something kind of tipped and became viral, that's really where that inflection point happened. And so, while this is something where marketers are familiar with that viral term, I think this is something that is happening in technology and society today, where there are several things that are taking off, where we are really only at the beginning of it. It's hard to see a true change at the very beginning of it. When something takes off and becomes an exponential growth, it's hard to really understand that or really see it at the beginning. So, we're dealing with things like artificial intelligence and machine learning. We're dealing with new technologies, things like blockchain. We've been dealing with big data for a long time now. And so, now we're kind of grappling with, okay, all of these things are starting to take off, but what happens when they really do? Agile brands are braced for this change because they understand that it's only a matter of time for some of these technologies, some of these ways of thinking, these ways of doing business. It's only a matter of time until they really take off. I talked a little bit earlier also about maintaining the status quo is not only something that puts you behind your competitors, but it's also bad for business. I mean, who wants to be the safe company these days? The safe companies don't win. The safe companies are the one that kind of get left behind. A few episodes ago, I gave the example of Netflix and how they really embraced a lot of forward thinking and agile principles in their growth. They disrupted a few different markets along the way. But think about their first big competitor, Blockbuster, who really kind of they were late to adopt the mail order business, never really got into the streaming business, and kind of held on to that brick and mortar retail mentality. And look what happened. Netflix surpassed them. They surpassed them quickly, but, Netflix kept succeeding because they didn't stop there. That idea of maintaining status quo, it can't exist anymore. If you do that, you're ripe for disruption. There's other examples of that in the e-commerce space. Amazon certainly has disrupted the entire retail market, but you look at some competitors that have been able to keep up. I mean, places like Walmart have been able to keep up fairly well. They certainly had a strong brick and mortar base already, but then you look at examples like Sears, and there's certainly some other factors in their demise, Toys R Us, ones like that. But both of those examples really failed to embrace this constant change, this move, this consumer shift to online retail, to e-commerce, all of those types of things. So understanding that change, that's really the first step. We are really at the first stage of, we really don't know what's next in some of these areas. Where is online retail going to go from here? We can see some signs of, very niche, very, niche specialization. We can even see some things like 3D printing and self-manufacturing, and that's a whole new realm yet to discover. But the companies that are embracing change now are set up well to embrace change later. In the next episode, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this topic, but more about how to identify when an evolutionary versus a revolutionary approach is needed. Thanks for listening. See you next week. If you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful, please rate the show on iTunes or contact me through my website at theagile.world. You can find my books, The Agile Brand and The Agile Web, on Amazon and on my website at theagile.world.